5 without a loss, Inter Messi next, and decision day at Citi Field. This is NYCFC Views.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
I'm Glenn Crooks, along with Roberto Abramowitz. We do your radio commentary. Roberto does the Spanish. I do the English. And now we're on once or twice a week with NYCFC Views. Roberto, what's happening, man?
Nothing much. Just waiting for this bad weather to go away. Actually, I've decided I'm not waiting for the weather to go away. I'm leaving. So I'm heading to Florida tomorrow, and I will see you guys, I guess, at some point on Friday. And then I'll travel back with everybody on Sunday.
Well, it's supposed to be beautiful tomorrow on Wednesday, so everything will be fine.
Figures.
It'll be a little hotter, though, where you're going, so that's nice, too. Hey, this news about Citi Field, and not Red Bull Arena for decision day against Chicago. This could be a monumental match for playoff consideration. And now, how many thousands more are going to be in attendance than they would be at Red Bull Arena, where if there were 1,000 people there the other night, I could actually count them. I was starting to count them at one point, but just in general, Red Bull Arena, 5,000, 4,000, 7,000. And at Citi Field, I would think it'll be what's the capacity at Citi Field for soccer? Do you know?
Somewhere around 23,000.
Okay.
They've sort of capped it on there, although they've never gotten to that figure. It's always been, I think the highest figure has been 21 and change.
Yeah. But if that game means we're in the playoffs or not, that's I would imagine
huge.
That'll be a decent turnout. So that was the big news today, I think. I'm sure supporters were, leaping in the air with joy now that not if they're also Met fans, I suppose, but at Citi Field, it's not Yankee Stadium, although Yankee Stadium is going to be vacant at that time too. So I guess
supposedly not that they have some sort of an event booked on that weekend, as far as I've heard. So that's why Citi Field wound up being chosen. New York City still prefers to play as many games in Yankee Stadium as possible, and then whatever they can't play at Yankee Stadium, they'll play over at Citi Field.
Yeah. So all right. So that's news. The other news is I think we should start with Inter Miami because there was a press conference today, Tata Martino and Sergio Busquets, and it's related to the U.S. Open Cup final, which is Wednesday night against Houston at Drive Pink. And everybody was waiting to see if Tata would tell us if Messi's going to play tomorrow night. And he didn't tell us. He said, we're going to make that decision tomorrow, although he did say that Jordi Alba is out and Busquets will be playing. So you're going to get at least 1 out of 3, maybe 2. And I think it's unlikely. And why don't you tell the story of the presser where here's what happens. The media gets the first 15 minutes. They go out and observe training. And normally it's just the rondos or the whatever warm-up that the team does. And Messi was not there for the warm-ups. Franco was the first one. Paniza, he was the first one where I saw, he put it out there. He goes, oh, no Messi out here and no Alba out here. And then Tata during the press conference winked. So what did that mean, Roberto, to you?
So basically he said that once the press wasn't there that he came out and practiced, but he winked at the same time. And it seems like he didn't practice at all today. So for me, with the type of injuries that he possibly is carrying, because they don't want to tell you exactly what that is. But if you're not running and you're not kicking a ball and you're not practicing for the week, and especially the day before the practice, before the game or two, the chances of him playing, I find, are minute. if he makes some sort of cameo appearance, or they just put him on the bench just to scare
Penalties. Maybe
Houston and Ben Olsen. I don't know, but I have the feeling.
Roberto.
At this point, I'd be shocked that if he played.
Penalties, right? I mean, if it goes to penalties, then you have Messi to take it if he's physically capable of. So wouldn't you have him on the bench just for that?
Without playing, without kicking a ball?
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know how seriously he's injured, so
what
the problem is. Remember, he was withdrawn from the game 35 minutes in.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I said,
I'm just like you're interrupting me, so I'm just continuing my thought.
Not interrupting. It's a conversation, and conversations go back and forth. Have you ever been involved in one?
Yes, but again, normally people let me finish saying what I have to say.
No, but that's the interrupting part of going back and forth is what it makes it all healthy. But anyway, I said if he's healthy enough to take a penalty, put him on the bench. Of course, if he's not, then he's not going to be there. So don't talk about him being injured and taking a penalty. He'll either be there or he won't, I think. Right? I mean, wouldn't you put him on the bench? If he's able to take a penalty, would you not have him on the bench tomorrow night?
I'm honestly not sure. I'm really yeah.
Oh my goodness. All right. That's pretty cool that you think that, because I don't I mean, you're not going to put Messi up to take a penalty if he's healthy enough to do it just because he hasn't played in the match?
I mean, he's not 100% on penalties. I know he hasn't missed one in a while, but he's missed some important ones. I was at MetLife Stadium when he missed the Copa America final one, and he put the ball over the crossbar.
I saw it too.
It's not guaranteed.
Okay.
Even Daniel Gazdag misses a penalty here and there.
All right. So we've learned a couple of things so far in the early stages of NYCFC Views. Roberto can hear me, and he would like me to wait until he finishes his statement before I interrupt. So I'll do my best on that.
Before I interrupt.
Fine. Yeah. So, but back to the. Did we ever get an attendance figure for Red Bull Arena for the match against Toronto? Okay.
I did ask, and that message seemed to have gotten lost. So there's a difference between tickets distributed and fannies and seats for whatever that number is. But fannies and seats was under 1,000. Yeah.
Oh, no question. But I was just curious of the attendance figure. So we didn't get it. That's something MLS has to do better. They have to demand that every team, by the middle of the second half, put the attendance figure out, no matter whether there's 50 people there or 25,000 people there or 72,000 people there. Put the figure out. The other thing, and this really bothers me, Roberto, is that this, and I know it does you too. And I want you to kind of offer what NFL does with the injury report, because it's MLS. One of their chief sponsors is a gambling outfit, right? Like DraftKings or one of those.
I don't know, one of those.
MLS has associated itself in a sponsorship standpoint to a wagering outfit. Okay. Now, when you consider that the injury reports are all over the place around the league. Some teams put them out early. Some teams put them out. Whatever the considerations are, if there's a guy on New York City FC, let's take Alfredo Morales, who's out right now. How long is he out for? Put it out there. And I'm beside myself, because if you're a betting person, you're putting a wager in, at different points leading into a game. But if MLS had this anti-gambling policy and all, but they're moving in a direction, and they're continuing to move into a direction where because it's the generation that they want to grab hold of. And it's a generation like my son, who's now 30 years old, and he bets on his phone, not millions, but he's got MLS parlays and all this other stuff going on. You need a proper injury report. I don't get it. So what does the NFL do?
I'm glad that you're finally screaming about it, because I've been screaming about it for years, that MLS, if it wants to be taken seriously, and look, gambling income, and not literally from the DraftKings of the world and MGM betting and all the casinos, is huge. The amount of people that follow sports just because they can have a piece of the action, as they like to say, be part of the game, as they like to say, is huge. It's a huge market, but people aren't going to gamble. Is what people like to be informed. For the most part, people like to have some sort of level of information, right? I mean, it's called gambling because there's no such thing as a sure thing. So it is a gamble either way, but you want to be able to gamble intelligently, or at least you think you're gambling intelligently by trying to understand who's playing, who's not playing, and all those things are important. And I think that if MLS wants to be seriously considered by people who are putting money on games because they think that they have a chance to win money, and then they need to be treated properly, just like the NFL does. And they have to put out real injury reports, and if the teams are lying about their injury reports, they have to be heavily fined. And so
that's the part right there. That's the part right there.
Tata Martino,
the cover up,
based on the rules,
cover up.
Based on the rules on that exist right now, Tata Martino can hold out until 50 minutes before the game before revealing if Messi is going to be part of the 20 or not.
I recognize that. You're right. And so that's where it's got to change. That's where it's got to change. But, well, beyond that, I think it's a good talking point and something that's got to be considered, especially when people are betting on these games and you're drawing that.
And as a league, you have a tremendous amount of income that's possible because now people are paying attention to your games, either via TV, Apple season subscriptions, MLS season pass, listening to games on the radio, following it on your phone, whatever it takes to figure it out. I mean, look, I just do. So I don't gamble. I'm not a gambler. Okay, in any shape or form. But I have with the NFL, I'm in a pick'em league with other professionals that we share online, and then I'm also in a pick'em league with my son and one of my friends. And I'm constantly checking in on the other games, and I look at the previews to see which way I'm going to pick. And if I don't know, I thought Joe Burrow was going to play last night. Eddie didn't think so. My friend Andrew didn't think so, and they picked the Rams, and I picked the Bengals. They lost, I won. So it's a huge difference because I knew, because of the way the injury reports were going, I was taking a look and I was like, all right, there's a good chance that he's going to play. They stopped looking a couple of days before and they thought he wasn't going to play. So I took advantage of it and I won.
All right, Roberto. Well,
it was a horrible game, by the way, but still.
Well, whatever.
It was brutal.
The Messi thing is interesting, more so for us and supporters of New York City FC that might be watching or listening to this because of Saturday's game. New York City playing at Inter Messi, and will he be in the lineup? Busquets, we hope, will be there. Will Jordi Alba? We don't know the extent of Alba's injury because they don't say anything. Nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
So
day to day, as are we all.
And it's also tickets that people are paying an exorbitant amount for. Some of it ahead of time, but there might be somebody, on Friday that wants to go to the game, and it costs $200 because it's a Messi game, and then he doesn't play, and so.
And if they find out a day before that he's not playing, those $200 go down to $20.
Yeah,
I mean, we've seen in the last game that he played, which was at Drive Pink Stadium, he was replaced in the 32nd minute or something, and you saw streams of fans leaving the game in the 35th minute.
What did that remind you of?
You
were in the States when Hank Aaron hit his 750 home run, which at the time was the most that beat Babe Ruth, and it was in Atlanta.
Still is in my mind.
And well, yeah, you can look at that a number of ways. So he hits the home run, rounds the bases, people going crazy, people running onto the field trying to get a handshake or a hug. And
they got on.
Huh?
They got on the field. He was escorted by fans around the bases.
Yeah, but that's my point. What made me think when I saw these Inter Miami fans leaving Drive Pink Stadium after Messi left, the game injured, it reminded me of this because half the stadium went home after Hank Aaron hit his home run, and it was fairly early in the game. So, and they were always at that time known as very fickle baseball fans in Atlanta. But anyway, it just made me think of that if anybody was around for that.
Here's the lesson, Glenn. And this is a lesson that everybody in Major League Soccer has to be paying very careful attention to. And it's this. When you bring in a player of the magnitude of Messi, or a step down or 2-step down or 3-step down, which is still going to sell a considerable amount of tickets because people are going to want to watch that player, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to become Inter Miami fans or New York City FC fans or Chicago Fire fans or LA Galaxy fans. They're fans of the players. And what you have to do is that you've got to get these people early enough where you're making them fans of the team as well. So when the player leaves, they stay behind and they still support your team, which is also why you have to go after kids at a young age and organically make them fans of your team. Because especially in communities of immigrants where you have soccer fans that have been soccer fans all their lives before they came to the United States, okay, they were following teams in Mexico, in Argentina, in Italy, in Turkey, in Spain, or wherever. And they're always going to follow those teams. And when you bring a player in like that, they're going to follow the player. And then once that player leaves, if you haven't done your job and made them a fan of your team, they leave as well. Case in point, Christian Pulisic went from Dortmund to Chelsea. And because he was in Chelsea, I started following Chelsea and wish them well, even though I'm a Spurs fan. And I wanted to see Pulisic do well as much as he could. The minute Pulisic left, I couldn't care less of what's going on with Chelsea. Couldn't care less. And the teams have to figure out a way of getting people, let's say like me in this occasion, right, and try to convert me into be a permanent Chelsea fan. Although that's not going to happen in my case because I'm already rooting for Spurs, and I will be slitting my wrist every Sunday or every Saturday, as is ritual with Spurs fans, because Spurs normally likes to rip your heart out every chance that they get.
Oh, yeah, but wait.
Here we are.
Oh, wait. You've got Ange Postecoglou as your manager now, who seems to have really won over the team, the supporters. He is just a guy. You just look at him, you listen to him. He's as down to earth a guy at his level that I've ever heard. I know a lot of Celtic supporters, and they loved him there. And he's doing a fantastic job. And that's a team to watch closely partly because he's there now. Come
on, you Spurs. But hey, so bringing it back to the States. Well, the teams have to, once these fans start coming, especially the kids, you've got to really go after, I believe, the kids to make sure that they stay within fandom, because they'll drag their parents to games. That will happen. You can't let these kids, once Messi leaves, disappear. Well, and now either not follow the team or follow wherever else he's going to go.
This is a perfect segue. I don't know if you saw this story in Sportico and also Yahoo.com, written by a friend of mine, Ashley Pellet, a friend based on the fact I interviewed her once, and Eben Novy-Williams. Lionel Messi, here's the headline. Lionel Messi drives MLS record ticket revenue for the Chicago Fire. Now, contained in this story, think of this. You have 17 home games in MLS. The game they're hosting with Messi at Soldier Field, they're going to get 70,000 plus. And it will be...
Soldier Field holds 61,000.
62,000. Excuse me. 62,000. You're right. So it's 62,000. It'll be 55% of their ticket revenue for the entire season in that one game because of the increased attendance numbers. And then they're charging, this exorbitant amount for tickets, of course, like everybody else is. But I thought that was an amazing portion of the story. And they do have this one thing in here, Roberto, which I think it's not specific, but it says the club is considering an offer for fans with tickets if Messi does not play in the game. But again, they haven't. They're calling it a small credit. if he doesn't play in the game. But they're considering it. It's not final yet.
That's interesting because I mean, look, at the end of the day, right? You're going to watch a team versus a team. Obviously, we know that players, can drive these numbers, and we've seen it with Messi. So I get that. If they do a little bit of a refund, fine. But at the end of the day, there's no guarantee that players are going to play, especially if you're looking at Messi now. He may not play tomorrow. He may not play Saturday against New York City. He may not play the rest of the season. Or there's Felipe Cárdenas, I believe, was reporting in The Athletic that he might play a little bit tomorrow, and then they're going to shut him down for the rest of the season. So, I mean, there's so many things going on.
It's speculation. It doesn't seem like anyone has.
Exactly.
It does. Nobody
does.
Have...
The only one who knows is Tata Martino and obviously Messi. And the people at Inter Miami, they know what they're doing. They know what's happening.
Yeah,
they know they know now if he's not playing tomorrow.
But by now, one of these guys that digs in on a daily basis, you think, or women would have a little bit more too. But there's been nothing definitive. You're right. Hey, I just wanted to say, Chicago Fire, just talking about their attendance, they're second to last in the league, 14,800 a game they average, and they're going to get 62,000 for Messi. But they did have 20,000 for their 2-2 draw with New England. So it's gotten a little better for them anyway.
Well, it was Hispanic Heritage Night, and I presume that there were a lot of promotions going on with that. You have to understand Chicago is a very, very Latino city, although sometimes you may not get that vibe if you watch any television show or anything else. You would think that there aren't any minorities there. It's a weird situation. But aside from having a very heavy, a very large Mexican immigrant community, especially, they also have a very large Polish immigrant community, German immigrant community, hence why they've brought in, people like Schweinsteiger in the past. And who was it? Novak was very, very popular. But when Cuauhtemoc Blanco was there, and he was a bona fide superstar in Mexico, and he arrived at the same time that David Beckham arrived, they were selling out their games constantly at the place that nobody seems to be able to get to since he's not there, which is in Bridgeview, Illinois, SeatGeek Stadium. Oh, they sold that place out when they had somebody who they really wanted to see.
And now the Chicago Red Stars play there, the NWSL, and
yes, they do, and the Fire every so often. Not
the MLS side at all. Chicago. Well, one of my favorite parts about Chicago is when we stay in the hotel there. Right around the corner is the Buddy Guy Blues Club, man. So if we travel properly on that Friday night, we get to go in and catch a little music. And
absolutely.
What's the name of that hotel? Redstone? No, Blackstone. Blackstone. Okay. We've stayed there. We've probably stayed there more than any other place on the road, other than that one in Orlando. What's that one called?
No, in Orlando we switched around. In Orlando, we've been in two different hotels. In
Chicago,
but that one, we've been constant in one.
Yeah, but for the first
in DC, we've switched.
All right. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares about this.
Well, you brought it up.
I know.
Don't talk to me about it. I'm just setting you straight.
All right. So on to the Toronto game. So here, New York City. So this is 5 without a loss. 3 of those have been wins. 11 points is second most over the last 5 games of any team that has over the last 5 games of all the teams in MLS, with the exception of Portland, who have 13 points under Miles Joseph, the former NYCFC assistant, and who's taken over for Gio Savarese on an interim basis. So it's gone fairly well. You would hope for the victory against the Red Bulls and Vancouver. Those are the 2 draws, and some unfortunate moments in there. But last couple of games, Toronto, poor Orlando, number 2 in the league, and they didn't play particularly well. So you've got to give New York City some credit for diffusing that.
Yeah, but there's a caveat there's a caveat on that, and it's a very significant caveat, right, about those 5 games. And they all have to do with one thing. All of them were played at home.
Oh, yeah.
So although they don't have the stellar record that they've had in years past, 216 on at home, it's still very important, considering that this is a team that's only won 1 game away in 15 all year long within MLS.
7 draws, but 7 losses and just 1 win. Yeah, it's significant. It's significant that they haven't been able to produce on the road. And now going to Florida. And look, I think New York City, they've played a number of games this year where the opponents haven't been at full force and haven't really taken advantage of that. And if Messi isn't playing on Saturday, if Alba's not playing on Saturday, they've got to carry that on. And, it's not like it's an automatic win. These young guys that are going to replace them are very good. We know that. But
they brought in a lot of guys from Argentina who are very good players, young players that Tata Martino knows, and Paraguay. And also a lot of the guys that they actually had there being utilized properly now. And obviously now having much more talent around them, their quality has gone up. The Robert Taylors of the world, right? Kremaski has been playing out of his skull. So you've got a lot of those guys who have gotten a hell of a lot better. So it's in general a better team. Having said that, they went to Atlanta and they got smoked.
Yeah, they did. 4-0, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Is that right?
Not close.
I can't remember
forget what the score was.
I'm thinking
my
4-0.
internet is really bad except for this connection. So yeah, I'm not screwing around.
It must be traveling through to Jersey too. I can't open up anything on my computer. And are we
neither
on?
Can I? Well, maybe there is something going on.
Is this
maybe
working?
There is something going on outside of this, and I'm using my phone as a camera, so can't even use my phone.
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking of the Inter Miami 4-0 win over Toronto. That's where the 4-0 came. So Toronto 3-0 New York City. So New York City has now beaten in the last 2 games against Toronto. It's 8-0 aggregate. The other was the Leagues Cup. So we had the opening goal scored in this 3-0 win, scored just inside of 2 minutes. And a guy getting his first goal for New York City FC was Andres Pereira. So we're going to hear the English call of this one, and then we'll get to Roberto in just a moment.
He loses the ball to Magno. Magno on the dribble, inside left channel, angles it, now goes cross field. Jason lets it run to Santi Rodriguez, peels it to the back post, and there's an early goal! And it's Andres Pereira as New York City, in 90 seconds, open up the scoring at Red Bull Arena through a driving rainstorm, which started just a few minutes before kickoff. Santi Rodriguez with the assist, and Andres Pereira his first New York City FC goal. Glenn.
Nice. Very nice. I liked it.
Did you?
And that picture,
there. You could tell how heavy it was raining because in a photo, if you can see the rain, it's it just like opened up, and then it didn't stay that way for long, but it rained throughout. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was on and off of the rain, and for the most part, it was drizzling. But there was at one point where it came down very heavily, and I'm happy for Andres Pereira because he's been such an important player since he started playing after Leagues Cup for New York City. I mean, he's like, you're not taking him out of the lineup. He's anchored.
I know Santi has really he's picked up his game, as has Tylus Magno. We'll get into that, but to me, if he continues to play the way he is, Pereira, and New York City manages to rally and get into the playoffs, I might say the MVP since the Leagues Cup will be Andres Pereira. I think he's made that much of a difference in the midfield. He's a true 8. He goes back and forth. He's great in the air. I don't think that's going to be his last goal that we see him score with his head before the end of this year, because he's also a target on set pieces, and if they connect well there. So it's he's been very, very good. His loan expires from Philadelphia at the end of this season. And every time I ask Nick Cushing about it, you were there for the last time I asked him, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I'm sure
every time he plays a game and plays at that level, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to money and how much Philadelphia is going to want for him.
Well,
that's what it's going to come down to.
Yep. So it's all going to happen at the end of the season. Second goal, Andres Jason, 4th minute of stoppage time. What a massive goal to go up 2-0 at the interval rather than just 1. So,
and by the way, before you go on to the next one, looking at the replays of the goal again, when Santi makes the cross to Jason, the reason the ball is a little bit behind Jason is because it deflects off the first defenseman. It just slightly ticks off the first defenseman, and it goes a yard behind Jason instead of right to Jason. That's why there's no assist in the second goal officially for Santi Rodriguez.
Well, it's ridiculous, but
I agree.
We're not going
I fully agree.
There's a lot of things that can be switched in terms of that sort of thing. To me, a guy who draws a penalty and somebody else scores the penalty, they should get an assist, or the guy wouldn't have had a chance to score. But we'll stay away from that. In the off season, maybe in the off season when we don't have games going on and we're doing the show.
Put a new category: penalties drawn.
Penalties drawn. I like that. I like that very much. All right, so Jason scores 2-0, and then Julian Fernandez. He came in at halftime for Monsef Bakrar, so we were busy texting the communications staff, both of us, like, what's going on with Bakrar? And
yeah.
The first response was like, what do you mean? Like, well, he was subbed at halftime. Is he hurt? No, tactical choice. So the coach made the substitution tactically, and then 9 minutes after the return of play in the second half, Roberto Abramowitz described it this way.
Sands, Fernández, de cabeza. Oh, bonita jugada en triangulación. Y aquí viene Fernández después del buen pase de Magno. Fernández se mete al área. ¡Tira! ¡Gol! ¡Gol! De Julián Fernández. Su primero con New York City. Y esto está 3-0 los celestes.
Bueno, para quienes comparan no solo físico.
Oh, and Ariel cut poor Ariel off like that. That's so rude. Ariel, I sent the whole thing. They have cut you off. It's not me. I apologize. I sent your whole commentary. I just want you to know that it was not me.
Well, that's, it's the way it goes, man. When you're the color guy.
Lane Canada.
You get cut off. Well, so Julian Fernandez, 19 years old, and he has played a lot of games as a pro for his age. And what's interesting about Fernandez is that it was a tactical choice as Tylus Magno moved into a striker role, and for the first time this year, also looked comfortable in that position. Tylus Magno, in these last two games, it's really a remarkable turnaround for him, and it shows you what a goal can do. But when he entered the game against Orlando in for the injured Richie Ledesma at the 56, 57 minute mark, somewhere in there, scored in the 68th, he was even better at that point. But Roberto, you weren't, Maddie and I were down on the pitch before this most recent game, Toronto. We just went down and hung out and just looked around, and Tylus walked in and walked past us. He just, you know how somebody, is walking with a spring in their step and a smile, shaking your hands. Hey, get another one today, laughing. It's like he's a changed guy. And it just happened like it's almost a snap of the finger.
Yeah, it's great to see. And it's amazing what a goal can do for you, right? I mean, just confidence-wise, it makes you relax. Your whole body sort of relaxes. Your mind now goes into a different place, and you remind yourself that you can do this. Nothing better than seeing the ball hit the back of the net. And then all of a sudden, you're starting to play with the confidence and at the level that you have with your abilities. And let us not forget, Tylus Magno is still the most talented player on this team. It is. And if he can get going and continue this, then New York City is going to be a much tougher out the rest of the way.
Yeah, it's a big part of whether they get into the postseason or not. Well, the next step, as they've been unbeaten through 5, is at Miami on Saturday. So, Sammy, let's kick it around. So, Roberto, Matt Crocker is the new general manager of U.S. Soccer, and he had a recent sit-down with some select journalists, and this was before one of the women's friendlies. And apparently Greg Berhalter and Gio Reyna have communicated. That was the big news from this. It's their first conversation since the World Cup. This is according to Crocker. And as he put it, it opens the door for Reyna's return in the October window with friendlies against Ghana and Germany, pending his health. But so it looks like they've taken at least the first step in trying to have a mutual understanding and a mutual ability to work together. I don't think there's ever going to be a real closeness ever again between the two, but they've got to figure it out.
Without a doubt. I mean, it's a matter of trust, right? And I mean, trust was not only broken, it was nuked between both those families. So it's a really, really hard thing. And, and both are to blame. It's not like, well, it's all one fault. It's really, they both had their part in all of this and setting this thing afire. So now you just hope that they can have a good working relationship, which is really all you need. You don't have to love each other, but you need to be able to work with each other. And we hope that this can all now, be put aside. Work is work. Everything else is everything else. And Reyna continues to be an important part of this team, because I still think that somewhere you've got to find a space for Reyna for it to be your best 11 on the field, right? I mean, it's sort of hard in a way, because you're thinking that you really don't want to break up the MMA midfield once Adams comes back, because you got Adams, McKennie, and Yunus Musa. So you don't want to break that up. At the same time, Tim Weah, Folarin Balogun, or Ricardo Pepi, and then Pulisic up front. So where does Reyna fit in all this? So, but I still think it's not an easy one. It's really not an easy decision. And maybe you rotate them somehow. And, on some days you use one and some days the other, but, and maybe it's opponent dependent. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to go into these decisions, but I still think, and it's a great problem to have, that you got a guy with the talents of Gio Reyna, and you need to figure out how to get him into your starting 11, because it makes your team better.
I don't think he has to be in the starting 11. And, the thing that players over the years, you try to explain to someone like a Reyna, or maybe it's Musa, or whoever it's going to be that sits, is it Weah? Whoever sits at the beginning of the game, you have to express to them, and it's really true with the U.S. men's national team, there are more than 11 starters in that group. But the person that doesn't play doesn't want to hear that, and if you can get value from a guy to bring him in the 60th minute because of his attacking flair, and he can produce for you in that manner. But imagine Greg Berhalter having that conversation now with Gio Reyna. That's why this is a real difficult spot. I mean, the reason all this happened is because of Reyna's reaction initially to being told of what his role was going to be in Qatar, supposedly, and whatever that conversation was. And he had a tough time. It was noticed. They considered sending him home. And now, leading into some important games, into Copa America next summer, you're going to, well, Gio, coming into this tournament, you're our 30-minute player. In the 60th minute, we're considering bringing you in. It ain't going to work, man. That's my...
I'm sure. Well, I mean, it could go in so many different ways. Berhalter may be even more deferential to him now and try to give him more minutes or put him in more than he originally had planned.
That's crap. You don't do that unless somebody earns it. You do not do that. You don't try. You don't do that.
Glenn, when you're managing, I agree with you. I agree with you in your assessment and how you're not supposed to do that. But people are human and emotions go there. And when you're trying to win somebody back, where you try to bend over backwards while you've in your life, you haven't bent over backwards to do something, even though you didn't think it was 100% the best thing because it would help that person or it would help the relationship. Please, you've done it. We've all done it. It's human nature.
Yeah,
nature. You're married, Glenn.
Human nature leads me to believe that Gio Reyna is not going to accept a conversation that he's a 30-minute man. If that's the case,
I would hope that Gio Reyna, from that incident and everything that fell out over the past 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, that he's learned from that as well and that he's matured. And by the way, if he hasn't, then that's a huge issue. That's a huge red flag. And that's even probably more important than how good he is on the field, because relationships within the locker room, relationships within the coach, relationship with your teammates are really, really important for the entire group to go forward. And if you've got one bad apple in there that's going to be throwing bombs in the locker room, unless you're the talent of Neymar, you can't be there. Doesn't matter really how good you are, even if you are Neymar. If you're going to be blowing up the locker room because you're being selfish, because everybody knows only 11 can play, then you don't belong there. We hope that he's matured and he understood it. By the way, what was his role with his team, right, with Borussia Dortmund since the World Cup before he got hurt? What was his role?
Yeah, that's different.
30-minute player every game.
It's different.
Every game. Didn't start.
There's a lot of difference. A lot. And it also includes his father. There's a lot of difference here, okay? There's a massive amount of difference. You've got two families that were tight like family.
Yes.
Hold on. His teammates have accepted and moved on from this. I'm suggesting to you that Greg Berhalter and Gio Reyna, it is going to be difficult. Those two. I think Reyna will handle himself with his teammates the way he needs to. I just think it's going to be and you know what? If they get through
I agree.
I
That's
applaud
not my point.
Both. Yes, it is your point.
No, it's not. My point was that you said that he may not accept a limited role on the team if that's where Berhalter decides he wants to go. And I said that if he's not mature enough to accept that and he blows up the locker room because of it, then you can't have him. I didn't say that that was going to happen.
Okay.
I was going on your case scenario on what would happen, not saying that was what was going to happen.
Point well made.
Let's be clear.
I just want to read this. I want to read this quote from Crocker because I think it's pretty interesting, Roberto. Quote, and I can't wait for him, meaning Reyna, to be in camp so we could stop talking about this, because I think until that moment happens, we will keep writing about it. I find this pretty fascinating for the general manager, the guy in charge now, the guy who says he wants to have direct contact with the U.S. men's national team coach, and when he names the U.S. women's coach, he's going to be the guy that contacts them, that he didn't have Berhalter and Reyna talk and communicate months ago. So he's saying, so we could stop talking about it and you could stop writing about it.
I'll take it from 2 points of view. On one point of view, on the surface, he just wants it to become about soccer and not the soap opera outside of soccer.
Of course.
Two, right. Now, why he didn't force a meeting before, it may have been that he had spoken to everybody individually and maybe nerves were still a little bit a little bit hot and things weren't, to the point of where it was best for them to communicate. You want things to calm down because remember that Reyna played for the U.S. national team since the World Cup. Wasn't under Berhalter, but he absolutely played, right, until he got hurt in Nations League. So now you've got now Berhalter comes back in. And so, all right, and it wasn't a given that Berhalter was going to come back in. So now that he is back in, so now what do you wind up doing? And so maybe things were a little bit hot at that point, for them to cool down. And then he gets them back together. But at the end of the day, you want him in camp, and let's talk soccer and how he's going to play, and not about everything else that's around.
I'm just saying, if that's the case, if exactly what you said is the case, then don't say something like, "So we can stop talking about it, so we don't have to keep writing about it." So no, don't say that. Say what you just said as part of the reason, because I don't think that's I don't think that's getting too far to the inside and personal about it. Don't say, so we could stop talking. It reminds me of Kurt Analfo, saying, let's move on and stop talking all the baloney, like moments after Bruce Arena's forced to resign and two of his assistants are out and Richie Williams is nowhere to be found. Let's just move on and stop the baloney. Come on, man.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
No,
But
you
anyway.
got to clear the air. The air has to be cleared, and maybe it's got to be cleared with media. And it will be, because the first press conference that's going to happen when he comes back is going to be Berhalter and him, and they're going to talk about their relationship, or they're at least going to be asked about their relationship, whatever they say about it. Coded in PR speak. If that's what happens, then fine. Or if they're going to be 100% honest about it, which we hope, and we get a little bit of an insight, and then we move on. And then we just worry about if he plays at right wing, or he plays as a 10, or he plays at the left wing, if he starts, or if he comes off the bench, and he's going to be happy with his role or not, whatever that is.
All right. So,
or is he going to make life difficult for Berhalter in the sense that he plays so well that you just can't take him out of the lineup, which is what we hope the case is.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Final thing here, man. We've talked about MD Myers before on this particular podcast, and congratulations to him. He's the co-Golden Boot winner with 19 goals in MLS Next Pro. So from our standpoint, it'll be interesting to see the next time we go up to practice, will he be working out with the first team? NYCFC 2, unfortunately, did not qualify for the postseason, and they'll probably still keep training and things like that, but I wonder if MD will get a chance at least maybe to train with the first team and get a little look at him before the end of the year, so that you could maybe start thinking about whether you think he belongs with the senior team. And Roberto, I wanted to say one thing. There's 3 Golden Boot winners. I can't remember the guys. Jack Lynn with Orlando and Remy Cabral with Colorado. Congratulations, Colorado. They won the West. When Tati Castellanos, and they all had the same number of goals, but MD Myers has more goal contributions than those two. And it just made me think about Tati Castellanos and Ola Kamara in 2021. They each had the same amount of goals, top goal scorers in MLS, but Tati had 8 assists, 19 goals and 8 assists. Kamara had 5, and Tati got the Golden Boot. Why don't they do the same thing in MLS Next Pro? I know they do some things differently, so I guess this is one of them.
Well, when MLS allows their teams to pick whoever seeded first to pick their opponent in the playoff, maybe that will happen.
This is my favorite part, and it's not. It's the 2nd and 3rd seed. Roberto and you'll like this. I don't think I told you this, and we got to close this. But on my Sirius XM show this week, it looks like I'm going to have all 4 coaches of the in each conference in MLS Next Pro that will be choosing their opponent in the opening round of the playoffs from seeds number 4 through 7. So the conference winners, they get a bye. The number 2 and 3 seed teams get to choose between number 4 through 7 who they play in the opening round. And I've been told Benny Feilhaber is one of them for Sporting KC, so he's coming on. And people that know him best said, he'll tell you why. Because I really think if these coaches don't say why they choose, and we're going to find out this afternoon, we're recording this on Tuesday, if they don't tell us why they chose a certain opponent, it takes the fun out, man. I'm not really even interested if they don't tell us. Yeah, we think we match up better, or say something.
Silence may tell you more than any 1,000 words that some coach is going to tell you.
Well, we'll see. I'm anxious to see what each one of them says.
I think it's fun. It really is. I think it does drive interest. How it affects the other team, the team that you picked. It's like, you think you can beat us?
Oh, heck yeah! That's going right up on the front wall of the locker room, man. It's
yes.
Colorado picked up. No, it'd be who are some of the teams? Columbus. It's Sporting KC, Columbus, New England, and Tacoma. The Sounders too. So it's like, can you imagine? That'd be great.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is what's cool about it.
Bulletin board material for sure.
It's the best. So I hope the only thing that's wrong. It doesn't appear that they're doing any. What they need to do is have like the 4. 2 general managers there, and they make with the coaches, and they make their picks like on Twix, or what's it called? Twitch, some sort of live stream. They should do that, man. They should do that. Come on, man. Let's do it. All right, Roberto, we've got a huge one on Saturday for New York City and their playoff hopes. And it would be nice if we had the opportunity. I don't know about you, but it would be the first time in my life that I would have a chance to talk about Messi running around the field or walking around the field or, making another brilliant delivery or finishing. Or for New York City's sake, I hope he just looks good but doesn't score. That would be my hope. But
or set up anybody else.
Yeah, or set up anybody else. So that's our airtime on the New York City FC network for Spanish with Roberto, myself. On the English side is 7:15 Eastern for the pregame show, and sync up with the video. You got to sync it, so you just kind of you freeze one, you wait for the other to come, and you're off and running.
Yeah, because the video is behind our audio, so you actually have to pause the audio on our broadcast to let the video catch up.
Yep,
we're about 15 seconds behind, anywhere between, depending on the day, anywhere between 7 and 15 seconds behind. And the video is anywhere between 40 and a minute and a half.
All right. Well, it's pretty easy to tell. Just have both on and you can tell. And then freeze the one where the kickoff comes and wait for the other. And that'd be the beautiful thing. All right. For Roberto Abramowitz, I'm Glenn Crooks with another edition of the old NYCFC Views.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.